King Solomon's temple, a marvel of ancient architecture and a symbol of divine presence, rose in unparalleled glory. Yet, behind its dazzling facade lay a rarely told truth. You know the splendor, but do you know the price? Uncover the hidden sacrifices behind this legendary sanctuary. The vision for this ultimate sanctuary was not Solomon's alone, but a divine mandate first entrusted to his father, King David. Despite his fervent desire to build a permanent dwelling for the Ark of the Covenant, God, through the prophet Nathan, revealed a different plan. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, the Lord promised David that it would be his son, one who would come after him, who would build a house for his name. This was more than a construction project. It was a sacred covenant, a promise that the spiritual heart of Israel would one day manifest in stone and gold, embodying God's enduring presence among his chosen people. Upon David's passing, the monumental task fell to his son Solomon, who ascended the throne with both immense responsibility and divine favor. Early in his reign at Gibeon, God appeared to Solomon in a dream, offering to grant him any request. Humbly, Solomon did not ask for long life, wealth, or victory over his enemies. Instead, as recorded in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9, he prayed, "Give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people and to discern between good and evil." God was greatly pleased with this selfless request, bestowing upon Solomon unparalleled wisdom, along with riches and honor. This extraordinary gift of discernment was not merely for governing his people, it was the crucial endowment that would enable him to undertake the sacred and complex construction of the Lord's house. The temple Solomon was tasked to build was no ordinary structure. Its design was divinely inspired, meticulously detailed by God himself. King David, before his death, received the precise plans from the Lord for every part of the temple, its courtyards, and its surrounding buildings, as outlined in 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verses 11 to 19. Solomon's role was to execute these intricate, sacred blueprints flawlessly. Every measurement, every material, every symbolic carving held deep meaning, reflecting heavenly patterns. This was a structure where sacred geometry and divine purpose intersected, a physical manifestation of God's covenant, a testament to his dwelling among his people, requiring immense precision and reverence in its execution. With the divine blueprint in hand, King Solomon understood that the monumental task of building God's temple required more than just vision. It demanded immense resources and unparalleled expertise. To secure the finest materials and skilled labor, Solomon embarked on a crucial diplomatic venture, forging a powerful alliance with King Hiram of Tyre. Through a series of correspondences documented in 1 Kings chapter 5, Solomon requested cedar and cypress timber from Lebanon, along with master craftsmen. Hiram, who had also been a friend of David, readily agreed, recognizing the mutual benefit of such a partnership. This strategic alliance was not merely about materials. It was an intricate political and economic arrangement, establishing vital trade routes and securing specialized skills that were indispensable for a project of this magnitude, laying the groundwork for an endeavor unlike any other. How did Solomon secure the finest materials? Uncover the powerful alliance that fueled the temple's construction. With the alliance struck, the vast cedar forests of Lebanon became a hive of relentless activity. Solomon dispatched a massive levy of laborers, tens of thousands strong, to work alongside Hiram's experienced lumberjacks. Day after day, the air would have echoed with the thud of axes as towering cedar trees, some hundreds of years old, were painstakingly felled. This was arduous, dangerous work, requiring immense strength and coordination. Once cut, the colossal logs were hauled down to the Mediterranean coast, where they were bound together into mighty rafts and floated south along the coastline, destined for Joppa. This immense physical undertaking, described in 1 Kings chapter 5 verses 6 to 9, was just the beginning of the unparalleled effort required. Picture the thousands toiling in Lebanon's forests, the unseen hands felling giants for God's house. Simultaneously, deep within the limestone quarries outside Jerusalem, another monumental effort was underway. Thousands of skilled quarrymen and stonecutters labored to extract and meticulously shape the immense blocks that would form the temple's foundation and walls. Unlike typical construction, every stone was precisely cut, dressed, and finished off-site, ensuring a perfect fit upon arrival. This foresight led to one of the most remarkable aspects of the temple's construction. No hammer or chisel or any iron tool was heard in the temple while it was being built, as recorded in 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 7. The silent precision of the building site itself was a testament to Solomon's meticulous organization and the engineering prowess involved in preparing every piece before it reached its sacred destination. Stones shaped in silence. Discover the ancient secrets of the temple's foundation. While raw materials were gathered, an equally crucial component involved the unparalleled artistry of master craftsmen. Among them was Hiram Abi, a highly skilled artisan from Tyre, renowned for his work in bronze, gold, and precious stones. His expertise was vital in transforming the divine vision into tangible beauty. He oversaw the creation of magnificent bronze works, including the two towering pillars, Jachin and Boaz, that graced the temple entrance, and the massive sea of cast metal, resting on 12 oxen. Intricate carvings adorned the cedar panels, overlaid with pure gold. From the smallest decorative detail to the grandest furnishing, the dedication and skill of these artisans brought exquisite beauty to every surface, fulfilling the divine specifications with breathtaking precision. From bronze to gold, witness the master artisans who brought divine beauty to every inch of the temple. The sheer volume of materials mobilized for the temple was staggering, an unprecedented logistical challenge for the ancient world. According to 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 14, David alone had amassed 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000,000 talents of silver, in addition to vast quantities of bronze and iron. Solomon further acquired immense stores of costly timber and precisely cut stones. Coordinating these resources meant establishing complex supply chains, managing shipping lanes, and maintaining a massive workforce across vast distances. This was not merely a construction project. It was a logistical marvel, a testament to an empire's capacity to gather and deploy resources on a scale rarely seen, all for the glory of God. Mountains of gold, forests of cedar. How did Solomon move an empire's worth of materials? Despite the meticulous planning, the construction of the temple was not without its practical difficulties and engineering feats. The Temple Mount itself presented geographical challenges, requiring significant foundational work to create a stable platform for the massive structure. Advanced building techniques were employed to ensure the foundations could support the immense weight and intricate design. The project spanned 7 relentless years, a duration that speaks volumes about its complexity and the sheer perseverance required. These early hurdles, though formidable, were met with ingenuity and determination, allowing the temple to rise in splendor. Yet, beneath this visible glory, the unseen human costs and sacrifices were beginning to accumulate, a hidden burden that would shape the kingdom's future. Thousands conscripted, families disrupted, the real price of labor for Solomon's temple. The construction of God's magnificent house demanded more than just raw materials. It required an unprecedented human engine. Solomon instituted a levy of forced labor, or ton, directly from the people of Israel, as recorded in 1 Kings chapter 5, verses 13 to 14. This was no voluntary service. 30,000 men were conscripted, sent in rotations of 10,000 to toil in the cedar forests of Lebanon for a month, before returning home for 2. Imagine the disruption to agricultural life, the fields left untended, the families left without their strongest hands. While these Israelite laborers served in rotations, the sheer scale of the demand meant countless homes felt the compulsory weight of the king's decree, transforming daily life into a cycle of absence and burden. Who were the 150,000 forgotten laborers, exposing the brutal reality behind the temple's construction? Beyond the Israelite levy, an even more formidable and often forgotten workforce labored under far harsher conditions. The Bible reveals that Solomon conscripted over 153,600 non-Israelite laborers, descendants of the peoples conquered by Israel, as burden-bearers, stone-cutters, and overseers. 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 15, 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verses 17 to 18. These were not rotations of service, but a relentless, compulsory servitude, often under the lash. Their lives were spent hauling immense stones, clearing rugged terrain, and enduring the brutal demands of a project that was not for their own God. This unseen workforce, toiling in the quarries and forests, represents a profound ethical dimension to the temple's construction, a stark contrast between the divine mandate and the oppressive reality of its human cost. Beyond labor, a kingdom bled dry. Uncover the heavy taxes that funded Solomon's golden age. The human labor was only one facet of the temple's hidden cost. The financial strain on the kingdom was equally immense. To fund not only the temple, but also his own lavish palaces and extensive building projects, Solomon imposed heavy taxation across Israel. 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 7 to 19, details the 12 district governors, each responsible for providing provisions for the king and his vast household for 1 month each year. This system, designed to support an opulent court and colossal building endeavors, funneled immense wealth away from the common people. The gold, silver, and precious materials that adorned Jerusalem were paid for not just by trade, but by the relentless extraction of resources from every corner of the kingdom, creating a constant, burdensome financial drain. While the temple rose, ordinary families struggled. The untold story of their silent sacrifice. For the ordinary Israelite family, the magnificent temple rising in Jerusalem often meant scarcity and hardship at home. With men away on forced labor, agricultural productivity suffered, leading to meager harvests and empty granaries. The heavy taxes meant less for their own sustenance and futures. While the king's glory grew, the daily lives of his subjects were marked by quiet struggle. The visible grandeur of the temple stood in stark contrast to the unseen, silent suffering in rural villages, where families grappled with the profound impact of a divinely mandated project that demanded so much from their lives. The temple's shadow, how its rising glory sowed the seeds of a kingdom's downfall. The immense human and economic costs of Solomon's reign, particularly driven by his monumental building projects like the temple and his palaces, began to sow seeds of discontent. A widening gap emerged between the privileged elite in Jerusalem and the common people across the kingdom. Whispers of resentment grew louder, especially among the northern tribes, who bore a disproportionate share of the burden. It was this simmering anger and sense of injustice that fueled the rise of figures like Jeroboam, a formidable official who would later challenge Solomon's authority. The very glory of the temple, intended as a unifying symbol, paradoxically became a catalyst for division, laying the groundwork for the tragic sundering of the United Kingdom of Israel. The construction of the temple, while divinely mandated, was inextricably linked to the geopolitical realities of Solomon's era. To secure the necessary resources and maintain stability in a volatile region, Solomon engaged in a web of strategic alliances. Many of these pacts were cemented through marriage, a common practice among ancient monarchs. The Bible tells us that Solomon took many foreign women as wives, notably the daughter of Pharaoh, a union that brought considerable political prestige and access to Egyptian resources. These alliances, while seemingly pragmatic for the kingdom's prosperity and the temple's supply chain, carried immense spiritual risks. Deuteronomy chapter 17 verse 17 had explicitly warned kings against taking many wives, or his heart will be led astray. Solomon's choices, driven by political expediency and perhaps a burgeoning pride in his own power, began to sow the seeds of future spiritual compromise, challenging the very divine law he was meant to uphold. The implications of Solomon's marital alliances were far-reaching and insidious. As his court swelled with foreign wives, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, so too did the demand for their native religious practices. These women, Many from nations God had warned Israel against naturally desired to worship the gods of their homelands. What began as an act of tolerance, perhaps seen as part of diplomatic necessity, gradually morphed into Solomon's direct participation. He began to build high places on the hills surrounding Jerusalem, altars dedicated to Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 7 to 8, starkly records this spiritual betrayal. This was not merely cultural acceptance. It was a flagrant violation of God's clear commands, a profound spiritual compromise occurring even as the magnificent temple, a symbol of the one true God, stood in its glory at the heart of the kingdom. The creeping shadow of idolatry began to fall upon the land dedicated to the God of Israel. As Solomon's reign progressed, a subtle yet profound shift in his priorities became evident. While the temple, God's house, took 7 years to complete, Solomon dedicated nearly twice that time, 13 years, to the construction of his own royal palace complex. This sprawling architectural marvel included the magnificent house of the Forest of Lebanon, the Hall of Pillars, and the opulent throne hall. Beyond Jerusalem, Solomon embarked on extensive building programs, fortifying cities like Gezer, Hazor, and Megiddo, and establishing store cities. These ambitious projects were testament to his wealth and engineering prowess, but they also revealed a growing preoccupation with personal grandeur and national security on his own terms. The immense resources and labor once channeled primarily for God's house were now increasingly diverted to personal glory and worldly pursuits, raising questions about where the king's ultimate devotion truly lay. Beneath the glittering facade of Solomon's golden age, whispers of discontent began to spread among the common people. The unprecedented building projects, the lavish court, and the numerous alliances, while impressive, came at a steep price for the average Israelite. There was a growing perception that the king's grand visions were enriching him and his elite at the expense of the populace. Ethical questions arose around the extensive use of forced labor, even if drawn from conquered peoples, as it blurred the lines of justice and compassion that Israel was called to embody. The moral high ground, once a defining characteristic of God's chosen nation, began to erode. In the marketplaces and private homes, a quiet disillusionment with Solomon's rule simmered, foretelling a future where the people would demand relief from the very burdens that built a king's glory. As the magnificent temple stood completed, its polished stones and gilded interiors reflecting the divine glory, it also silently bore the weight of countless unseen sacrifices. Beyond the gold and cedar, the true, hidden cost was measured in human lives. The untold stories of the thousands of laborers who toiled in the quarries, felled trees in Lebanon, and bore burdens under the scorching sun. Their names are largely unrecorded, their voices unheard in the annals of history. Yet it was their strength, their sweat, their lost time, and for many, their very freedom, that formed the bedrock of this sacred edifice. Their anonymous contributions, a profound and poignant sacrifice, became the foundation upon which God's presence would dwell, a sobering reminder that even in the grandest divine projects, the human element, with its joys and its suffering, remains indelibly etched into the narrative. 7 years of relentless labor, untold resources, and monumental effort culminated in a singular, breathtaking achievement, the completion of the temple in Jerusalem. Standing in pristine glory on Mount Moriah, it was an architectural marvel, a testament to God's precise design and Israel's dedication. Its cedar-paneled interiors, overlaid with pure gold, shimmered under the light, reflecting a divine splendor. The bronze pillars, Jachin and Boaz, guarded its entrance, symbols of strength and establishment. For the people of Israel, this was more than a building. It was the physical embodiment of God's presence among them, the fulfillment of a generations-long promise. A profound sense of national pride and spiritual anticipation filled the air, as the nation prepared for the sacred moment of its dedication. The culmination arrived with an unparalleled ceremony. Before the newly built altar, King Solomon knelt, his posture a picture of profound humility. leading the nation in a magnificent prayer of dedication. His voice, filled with reverence, echoed through the hallowed halls, acknowledging God's covenant faithfulness. "Lord, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth below. You who keep your covenant of love with your servants, who continue wholeheartedly in your way." He implored God to hear the prayers of his people from this sacred dwelling. In response, a thick cloud, the very glory of the Lord, descended and filled the temple so powerfully that the priests could not stand to minister. This moment was a divine affirmation, a profound spiritual height, where God's tangible presence met human devotion, sealing the temple's purpose as a true dwelling place for the Almighty. Yet even amidst this spiritual triumph, a grave and prophetic warning was delivered. God appeared to Solomon a second time, accepting the temple and reaffirming his covenant. But this acceptance came with a crucial, conditional clause. "If you or your descendants turn away from me and do not observe the commands and decrees I have given you, and go off to serve other gods and worship them," God declared, "then I will cut off Israel from the land I have given them, and will reject this temple I have consecrated for my name." This divine pronouncement, delivered in Solomon's private chambers, underscored a critical truth. The temple's enduring significance, and indeed Israel's future, rested not on its magnificent stones, but on the unwavering obedience of its king and people. The divine blessing was not unconditional, it was inextricably linked to faithfulness. Despite the underlying warning, the immediate impact of the temple on Israel's identity was immense. It instantly became the undisputed spiritual and cultural heart of the nation. Pilgrims from every corner of the kingdom flocked to Jerusalem, eager to worship in the place where God's presence visibly dwelt. The temple shaped the very rhythm of Israelite life, dictating festivals, sacrifices, and communal gatherings. It stood as a powerful, unifying symbol, a source of profound national pride, and a constant reminder of God's covenant with his chosen people. In its grandeur, the nation saw its own reflection, a beacon of divine favor in the ancient world. However, even as the temple stood as a monument to divine purpose, a stark contrast was simultaneously rising in Jerusalem, Solomon's own sprawling palace complex. While the temple took 7 years to build, Solomon dedicated a staggering 13 years to constructing his personal residences. The House of the Forest of Lebanon, with its cedar pillars, was a vast armory and royal reception hall. The Hall of Pillars and the majestic throne hall, where his famous ivory throne stood, were testaments to unmatched opulence. This disproportionate allocation of resources and time, with far more effort poured into personal grandeur than into God's house, began to reveal a subtle yet significant shift in the king's priorities, echoing the very compromises that would later define his downfall. Was the temple too great a burden? Unpack the immense pressures that shaped Solomon's choices. The construction of Solomon's temple, while divinely inspired, stands as a profound testament to the complex interplay between divine mandate and human cost. Even a project blessed by God can demand immense sacrifice, and in the crucible of such an undertaking, a leader's character is truly forged. Solomon, initially blessed with unmatched wisdom, faced the immense pressure of kingship, the demands of his people, the complexities of international diplomacy, and the constant need for resources. His struggle to balance God's explicit commands with the pragmatic realities of leading a burgeoning empire ultimately revealed the heavy burden of immense power and responsibility. A monument of faith, a scar of human failure, the temple's bittersweet legacy revealed. The temple in Jerusalem in its pristine glory was undeniably a beacon of faith, a physical manifestation of God's covenant with Israel, and the very dwelling place of his presence among his people. It stood as a magnificent symbol of devotion, prayer, and national identity. Yet, its legacy is not monolithic. Beneath the shimmering gold and towering cedar lay the profound human cost, the silent suffering of countless laborers, the economic strain on a nation, and the moral compromises of a king. It is a complex narrative that challenges any simplistic view of divine projects, revealing how even the most sacred endeavors can become intertwined with human fallibility. The ultimate price. How the temple's hidden costs tore a kingdom apart. The weight of Solomon's choices, particularly his increasing taxes, forced labor, and spiritual compromises, cast a long shadow over his reign and beyond. God, in his justice, had warned Solomon directly, "Since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you." 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 11. This prophecy, delivered even as the temple stood, found its tragic fulfillment in the next generation. Under his son Rehoboam, the people's grievances over the burdens of construction erupted into full-blown rebellion. The kingdom, once united under David and Solomon, fractured into two separate nations, Israel and Judah. The very hidden costs that built the temple ultimately tore the kingdom apart, a stark reminder of the consequences of straying from divine commands. Did Solomon miss the point? Discover what God truly desires more than any grand temple. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, started his reign with a humble heart, seeking only to serve God and his people. Yet, despite building the most magnificent house for God, his later years were marked by a tragic decline into idolatry and self-indulgence. His story powerfully reiterates the timeless truth found in 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. God desires a devoted heart and obedient spirit far more than any grand edifice of stone and gold. True worship is spiritual, not merely architectural, and a magnificent structure cannot atone for a compromised heart. Don't miss the ultimate lesson, how the temple's hidden costs can change your life today. The story of Solomon's temple, with its divine vision and human burdens, offers profound lessons for us all. It reminds us of the danger of worldly pursuits, the insidious creep of compromise, and the paramount importance of unwavering obedience to God. In an age where outward displays often overshadow internal devotion, this ancient narrative challenges us to examine our own priorities. Are we building magnificent structures in our lives, whether careers, wealth, or reputations, while neglecting the inner temple of our hearts? Remember, our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. May we take to heart the hidden costs of Solomon's temple and strive to build lives rooted in genuine devotion and obedience. What will your legacy be?